Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Probate Nurse Podcast. Really excited today to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Jordan Schacht, and he is the Regional VP of Operations and the Administrator at Concierge Care of Tampa and Clearwater. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jordan. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me today, Melanie.
Hey, absolutely. I'm so excited to have you here today because there is so much change going on in the home care and healthcare industry. And I just want to give our audience a little bit of a deep dive into what it is that you do specifically and what's changing within the industry. So can you give us just a little bit of a background on who you are and why you chose to get into home care industry?
Absolutely. Again, my name is Jordan Schacht. I'm the Regional Vice President for Concierge Care and Administrator. What we do is provide caregivers and homes for people that have needs. Needs can vary from persons that had a traumatic injury to normal mental health issues, all the way down to Alzheimer and dementia, where we really kind of shine.
And all that can be taken care of at home, which is pretty amazing. So I have to say, 'cause I know you do cover quite a list of items that people can have taken care of at home. And I know you mentioned a few other things, transitional care services, weakness, injuries, wound care. So your list is pretty extensive, which is right on. So what inspired you to get into the healthcare industry?
Well, I was fortunate to have parents and grandparents that were in the medical field. And, when I was younger, I was an athlete first and, didn't really plan on the future, figuring I'd either be a hockey player or a tennis star. And when I had my 15 minutes of fame and it was over, I had great mentors in my father and my grandfather who
Mhm.
really kind of have pushed me to get involved in the medical field in one area or another. But it really kind of came to a head when my grandfather actually was on dialysis the last 6 months of 6 years of his life, and that changed. And as it got worse, they needed help in the home, and I had moved to South Florida and was taking my role as a person in the business world at the time. And my grandfather and grandmother came down with a caregiver that my parents and my aunt and uncle had put in place to have. Well, after about 6 weeks of care from the lady, we found out that there was a problem with stealing. There was a problem with utilizing a mobile phone 30 years ago to call Europe, and we had to let her go. So
Oh.
so 3 days a week, I
Mhm.
became my grandfather's caregiver, getting him up at 5 in the morning, getting him dressed, and taking him to dialysis, and then I went to work. At the time, I was in the healthcare field, but not directly with a hands-on approach. It was more along the lines of third-party administrator for large healthcare programs. So once I saw what was going on here, and
Mm.
then it happened to me again when I moved out to Tucson, and mom got lymphoma and had to deal with the battles of cancer. Um, we ended up, after she passed, moving back to Tampa and got involved with a home care company and have been doing it now since 2011.
That is a fantastic story, and I kind of feel that that's the way that a lot of us get into this. There's something that's personal that happens with our family or spouse or children, and it leads us to kind of finding our purpose and where we should actually be. So that's a great story, and that was mighty big of you, honestly,
Mhm.
for helping your grandfather like that and making sure that that he was taken care of. And the other thing too that you mentioned was the fact that things were going missing.
Yep.
You know, yeah, and
Yep.
it's really about protecting people and their assets in their home, and having something like that happen is pretty bad. So, how do you ensure that your caregivers are well trained and qualified to go actually, into somebody's home and take care of them? What is the process for that?
Great question, Melanie. It all starts with doing a deep dive into their background. It's mandated by the state of Florida and ACA to do a level 2 background check on all caregivers, which is an FBI level background check. But we also
Mm.
do a secondary background check because people are moving here from Florida, and the state, mandates it's for the state. So if you've been here for 18 months, where were you the last 10 years, and we want to
Sure.
make sure there's no red flags. If they
Mhm.
pass both background checks, they come in, they meet with my nurse, they review their skill set, and if they pass that background check, we bring them in and start teaching them the culture of concierge care.
Oh, I love that. So your clients can definitely feel very safe and confident that
Correct.
everyone has been checked and there's nothing horrible going to happen, which is wonderful. And then can
And we
you also
also,
walk us, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, and we also verify all their credentials. So we
Mm.
do, a state background on their CNA or HHA license, which in doing so allows us to know if they've even been flagged in the past for, leaving a situation or not,
Mm.
no call, no show. So we want to be on top of all those things prior to them happening to us.
Yeah, that's a must, especially the no-show
Absolutely.
situation.
Yep.
You've got somebody at home by themselves, you really have to make sure that your help is going to actually show up and do what they say. And I love that
Correct.
it's like an FBI level. I love that. And I think your clients will too. That's absolutely stellar.
Right.
So how do you
And
match your caregivers with your clients to ensure compatibility? Is there a process to that as well?
absolutely. Great question. When we do a start of care for a new prospect or client, we sit down and we meet with the family. The reason we do this is we put together a care plan designed directly for that patient.
Mm.
There's a generalization. Do they need help with bathing, ambulation, transfers, toileting? Do they need help feeding? Those are primary, but we want to know their likes, their dislikes. Are they wanting somebody that is very communicative, or do they want somebody that hovers, or do they want somebody that's more introverted so they can do their own thing while that pit person is there and know that they're going to get
Mm.
the care that they needed? But each care case is different, and we try to take that funnel of caregivers.
Sure.
Those that are working, are reduced, and
Yeah.
then based on the needs of that patient, we reduce it to probably 3 or 4 caregivers, and then we review their history, make sure there's no call-offs that they've had,
Mhm.
and then if that's the right person, we match them. Now, the nice thing is we do have a caregiver guarantee that if for whatever reason that the family's not happy with the caregiver, we'll replace that caregiver within 24 hours.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I really like the way that you do that and really get to know your client's personality and what their needs are.
Hmm.
Everyone's got a different personality. So
Right.
I know I like peace. So that's really great that you can do that. You can switch
Yep.
out within 24 hours. I really like that as well. Um, so what steps does concierge care take to ensure and maintain the safety and security of their clients?
That's another great question. When we, review and we sit down and do a care plan, we do an assessment of the home to make sure the home's safe. If somebody's walking with a walker, you don't want to have
Okay.
multiple area rugs in the way. So
Mhm.
there's a trip and fall. Those are, we minimize, make sure there's grab bars in the proper locations in the bathroom,
Sure.
shower, toilet area. Even people that put up grab bars along their hallways to help a loved one be able to get up and down the hallway a little bit easier, especially if they're
Mhm.
walking but have balance issues.
Okay. I like that because, there's a new term that's going around. A lot of people may not be familiar with it, but us baby boomers, we're starting to age out. We're aging in place is what you were
Correct.
just talking about.
Correct. Absolutely. And to me,
So,
aging in place is the highest demand that everybody wants at the end of life.
mhm.
It's hard to make change, especially if, you're in the home stretch of that process.
Sure.
Um, if you've transitioned to an ALF or you've transitioned to an independent living,
Mhm.
wherever they're at, we're there to make sure that that end of life is
Mhm.
treated with the integrity and dignity that those people need.
Mm, that's great. Aging in place can be difficult. I went through situations here in my home, and my mom had dementia. So we had to really make sure the
Yep.
doors were locked, the lights were off, and the night walking, or maybe putting a nightlight in the bedroom so she doesn't fall, and things like
Hmm.
that. But really doing a deep dive and assessment for your clients is really nice to know that you do that. What challenges do your families face when they're searching for home care, and how does concierge care address those challenges?
We talk about our competition because
Mm,
everybody does a good job. Everybody has their pros, everybody has their
yeah.
cons. But we try to do everything across the board the right way the first time so we don't run into issues and problems. I would always tell families to do research on every company that you're going to interview. ask the pertinent questions, but it's also having, what we also have is kind of having that nursing oversight on top of it, where our nurse goes out every couple of weeks and does a, check in, not only with the patient, but also making sure the caregiver is dressed in uniform, has their name badge properly on top of things. But it does come down to the family first, and in giving them the right opportunity with the right people and maintaining it. So oversight, checking in, proper communication is a big key in all of this.
It's huge.
And if we don't know or don't hear, just like you or me, we would assume things are going well. But if there is something minor, it is, we want to head it off immediately so it doesn't become something big.
Mhm. I like that. And then I know you have many of these. Can you share a success story where Concierge Care has just provided such a difference in one of your clients' life? I know you have a lot of these stories.
And one of the best stories that I can really tell you about that has made a difference was during COVID. We had a couple of clients that literally were not being able to be discharged from nursing homes or rehabs once they had gotten COVID. We had even contacted the director of the facility. We dealt with the regional, and then we finally got the state involved because this person had the right to be able to go home, not be held against their will. So by the time and they were telling the family that she is going to be dying, of COVID, and they were talking through the windows, in the old days. They didn't even get to get into the room. But after, a litigious battle and a lot of communication with the state, we were able to get her discharged. Not only did she get home and be with family, she's still a client of ours 4 years later.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So,
what a tough time that was.
yes, it was. It affected
really
all of us.
And providing anything that you could do to help those families to their loved one is just really outstanding. It was difficult. I do know that.
Yep.
So how do you, next question is, how do you adapt your services to meet the unique needs of each client?
One of the things that we really look at, and when it comes back to the care plan, is sitting down and listening to the needs that are presented to us, but also people change, people adapt. For example, we had a client that had some mental health issues, but 6 months after we had been there, she also developed digestion and others and had to have different surgeries. And the client went from just a 6-hour a day shift to 24/7. And in being able to turn that in, to the immediate need of the client, it starts with our scheduler, starts with knowing our caregivers, who's available, who's not available, but being there and transitioning that person home and making sure that they're there that 24/7, but knowing that it's not just the mental aspect we're dealing with. Now it's a physical aspect. This person needs to be turned, needs to be rotated, being able to prop the legs up so circulation needs are taken care of and reducing swelling. So all those come into play. And again, once we know that there's a change, my nurse does go back out, reviews the situation, and adjusts the care plan accordingly.
Love it. Been a nurse for 30 years now, and I hear the words care plan. I get all excited. It's like a plan of action. It's things that people don't think about. They don't think about that. They think, hey, you're going to have a nurse or, a tech or someone come into your home and help your family members. They don't really realize how much goes into it. The complete assessment, every shift and things, elevation of the legs, like you mentioned. So it's great. So what advice would you give to families who are considering home care options and for their loved ones?
Absolutely. The best thing that a family can do is go into it with not a tunnel vision type of approach. It's looking at them, reviewing Google reviews, reviewing the company's longevity in the state, knowing what that company can and can't do, in agency, a registry. But when you come to a companion company per se, those companies are there to help babysit a situation, but they're not there to be hands-on. Hands-on is a different situation and different license level. And in doing so, companies like mine or the other companies that are out there that do have hands-on, that's how we always operate. We don't But if it's strictly just a companion care company, they're a babysitter. But the problem is with those type of companies, if somebody has a heart attack, they're not supposed to be doing CPR on that person. That's
Ah,
part of the regs of the state. So with all those things
okay.
being said, know who you're dealing with, know the company's capabilities, know the ability to say if I'm flexible and I need to change
Mm,
my schedule, am I going to get charged for it? There are companies out there that every time a schedule's changed, make a charge. Our rate includes everything. We don't play games. It's a flat rate. We don't, make adjustments. The only time that there's an additional charge is if we get involved with med management. There's a one-time setup fee and then a maintenance
mm,
fee. And if we transport a client somewhere, and outside
mhm.
of that, we don't have any additional fees or additional hidden fees. Rates aren't higher on the weekends.
Okay.
Especially if you're working with us during the week, we want to keep that consistency and continuity and make it easy for the family. We don't want to be a part of the problem that their loved ones have become and add to that, stress and
Oh,
anxiety
yeah.
that people have. We want to minimize all that so people
Mm.
can go out and do their, what they need to do daily. Because if things get worse, their energy is going to be used by the loved one in need.
I think that's fantastic when you mention that your fees remain the same, especially for the weekends. That is
Hmm.
so huge for families.
Yep.
We all have to get out, we have to shop, we have to carry on with life too. So that's
Hmm.
really nice to know that you're not paying double or whatever the fees are,
Correct. Correct.
especially
And
like overtime fees.
exactly. And and having that transportation available
Yeah.
for a higher functioning client, they do like to get out. They do like to go to
Okay.
the mall or they do like to go shopping, because it still gives them that piece of mental control that they think that they're going to lose.
Oh,
Let
yeah.
them be able to go and
Mm.
have that freedom. We take patients to doctor's
Mm.
appointments. We take patients to hairstylists or get their nails done. It gives them that breath of fresh air and independence that they so value at this point in life.
Hmm. Yeah, independence is everything with
Yep.
aging, especially if you're coherent and you're able to walk and talk and feed yourself and do your own ADLs. I think it's hugely important to allow people to keep that individualism and be on top of their game as much
Yep.
as they can be with the minimal support. That's pretty fantastic. So when you're looking at people, as you're just saying, they're going through all of this, a lot of the emotions can run wild, both for the caregiver and for your client. So in what ways do you prioritize the emotional well-being of your clients as well as your staff?
We first start with our clients as what the need is, what the problem is, identify, the if there's a mistake or identify
Mm,
if it's something that the client did and the family's, involved, but get the facts and then get the facts from the caregiver, review the situation. And, there's two sides to every story. We want to make sure that we fall in line and, where the right part is. Um, whether it's me getting involved at that point to help resolve the situation,
mm,
or if it's my nurse and it's a medical clinical situation, we're there to make things, adjustable for them and be, make sure that everything is running smoothly. Problems happen. It's part of the industry. It could be a subtle change in schedule
mhm.
to a caregiver losing their
Sure.
babysitting and their schedule changes, and then you
Yeah.
have to replace them with somebody new. Does that
Mhm.
take time? Yeah, but then again, the caregiver guarantee, and if they don't like that one, we'll go through four, five, six until they find the right one that they like. We'll usually send somebody that's very passionate like the previous one, but things have to be adjusted and be flexible to make things right for everybody.
Mhm. It can be tough. Caring for people can be very, very tough, and sometimes personalities clash, or someone doesn't
Hmm.
feel comfortable with somebody. Maybe the caregiver is actually going through, struggles of their own. So it's really great that you go in there and you do that deep dive into that, and then you can
Hmm.
correct it as needed. So kudos
Yes.
on that too. So how does concierge care support families that are actually going through the caregiving journey? What can you offer them for more support?
We like to sit down and listen and find out, during that journey when things get stressful or if there's things of
Mm.
need. Identifying support groups, sometimes Alzheimer, dementia,
Mhm.
all the wonderful diseases that are out there. There's some tremendous support groups that we'll identify for the family. We're there to have conversations, sit down in their home and review what the need is and come back, after discussing it and giving them the right answer versus
Mhm.
giving them an answer that they want to hear.
Right.
Sometimes those answers are a little harder to digest, but it's at least
Mhm.
the right answer, and that's what we try to provide.
And being truthful. And I think a lot of people don't really fully understand all the resources that are available now to
Correct.
them. When I was
Correct.
going through what I was going through, my father and brother were both terminally ill at the same time, and we placed them in palliative care and hospice a day apart. I had no idea what was available because I was in crisis.
Hmm.
So I wish I would have known you then, and could
Right.
have guided me through that a little bit better because I really didn't have that support at the time. So this is wonderful that you have those links and you can assign people to whether it's Alzheimer's care or whatever it is that they need. So that's fantastic. And tell me a little bit about the future plans for Concierge Care. How big is your corporation and where exactly do you cover? Like what ground do you cover? How far out of Tampa?
So we have 15 locations around the state of Florida, and we're domiciled in the state of Florida. Our goal is to continue to lead the industry, be the best that we can be.
Mm,
Where you go up and down both coasts, all the way down to Naples, all the way up to Hernando County on the west
mm,
side, and then
okay.
Jacksonville all the way down to Palm Beach on that side, and then we're Orlando, Gainesville, Ocala, the villages. So we're predominantly covering all the ACA major zones,
Yeah.
and in doing
Mhm.
so, we'll probably open a few more locations. But right now, as a partnership and as a company that is thriving,
Mm,
we're going to do it strategically, and we're going to do it with the intent to go into the right areas. And as
sure.
we can, private duty isn't for everybody. Costs aren't always beneficial to some families. There's
Mm,
options, and we refer people to those. But with the ability as our company has to be successful, to provide a great quality product to the end user, to be an employer of choice for the caregivers, we're going to do it strategically and in the right way. And so we really
mhm.
have all the ACA zones, covered in the majority of the state. Eventually we'll get up to the Panhandle area.
I really had no idea you covered that much. I really just thought it was kind of like within that 1 hour of Tampa. So that's really good to know. So people listen up. If you
Right?
need any help and you're located out of Tampa, Jordan's team can help you. So,
Absolutely.
a lot of the work, and I think you just kind of touched on that, it's really about measuring success for your clients. How do you measure success and satisfaction of your clients as well as your caregivers? Is there a process for that?
Yes, there is. We use a third-party surveyor that is standard for the industry, called Home Care Pulse, that
Mm,
surveys not just the caregivers, but also each client. They touch them a couple times during their time of service with us. With that being said, our goal is to win the leadership award, which means that we're not just the employer of choice, we're also the provider of choice, which allows us with those two wins to be the leadership choice, which puts us in the top 10% of companies in the country.
congratulations.
Thank you. And we've been able to
Yeah,
pull that off the last couple of years. It's a lot of hard work. It's, being humble
it
enough
is.
to understand and digest the mistakes that are made and improve on them. So that's usually monthly that we review the good, the
Mhm.
bad, and the ugly that
Sure.
we go through. And we try to improve on all those going forward. And it's,
Mhm.
once a month that we sit down with the whole group in the office and make sure that we're all accountable for the good, the bad, and the ugly that are presented to us
Yeah.
on the report.
Yeah. And it's true in any sector of business, there's always going to be good, bad, and ugly. And the fact that you address it, especially with your team with monthly meetings, is a wonderful way to approach it. And you can make those changes and continue being in that 10%.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Congratulations on that. That is not
Thank
easy
you.
to obtain. It's wonderful. So there's a lot of questions that I have received from people who are, they really need the home care and they're really afraid that they cannot afford it. So can you explain a little bit about how families can pay for this and if Medicaid, Medicare, who helps people? pay for the
So
services?
that's another real important question that's identified. As I mentioned, services are affordable for some and not affordable for others. But,
Sure.
there are, we do take cash, we do take credit card. But one of the ways that people sometimes do forget, there's long-term care insurance that's out there. There are policies that are probably bought 20, 30, 40 years ago when they first came onto the market.
Mhm.
And doing so, that does help, with the costs. The policies were designed for this type of care. They don't sell them or promote them as much anymore because the insurance companies who want their big, beautiful glass buildings, are
Mhm.
paying out on these policies because everybody's living longer. And with that being said, it's hard for, the middle generation, the 30, 40s, to try to get policies these days because there's limited resources on
Mhm.
who's providing them. But with resources being said, Medicare and Medicaid deem our services custodial services. Custodial services basically means family and friends have to take care of that loved one. So we're the third option. We do try to do, a minimum shift if people can't
Mhm.
afford, 24/7 or 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
We're with some people that, are a little tighter and they'll only do 2 days a week or 3 days a week for four
Mhm.
hours. And we work with them.
Okay.
The other options are there's some great senior companies out there, senior resources,
Mhm.
are great. They do have a few people that do sitter services and do some social interaction. There are options. If people go to Medicaid, there are a few companies that Medicaid will pay.
Okay.
But Medicaid, used to pay a solid rate to everybody, and most companies were willing to accept it. But when they drop their payment level from a normal standard to
Mhm.
$20 or less,
Mhm.
that becomes a little difficult. So
Okay.
some of the companies like ours that are a little bigger, a little more established,
Mm.
uh, don't have that opportunity, but there are a few companies out there that do deal directly with Medicaid and that will provide sitter services. And that'll usually be 2 or 3 hours at a time, a couple days a week.
Okay. So pretty minimal.
Correct. And if you're a veteran, there's options out there
Okay.
applying for aid and attendance, which is a great benefit. When if you were active during a time of conflict,
Mhm.
you're eligible for it. I do apologize for that. I just had one of my friendly cats decide to pop in
Hi,
and say
mine's under the
hello.
table.
Yeah, I apologize. But,
Cute.
aid and attendance, like I said, is a great, it takes time to get established, but if you are a military veteran, that's a great option out there because it can give
Okay.
you and your spouse up to $2,500 a month to be able to use towards, home care services.
That's a wonderful option for our veterans, and it's the second time that I've heard that this week, so that's really something that I need to dive into, and learn a little bit more about, but that sounds fantastic. So is there anything else that you feel our audience members would need to know, maybe something that I missed? Any questions that you think they might want answers to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important for family members when they're in a time of need and they do call, understand that we're there to make it easy for them. We
Mm.
understand the pressure that you're going through or the stress that you're getting some tragic
Sure.
news or so when you really have this need, sit down, ask all the questions. We're
Mm.
here to answer those questions for you, whether it is literally, there at the hospital, or if you're not ready to make that transition home and you get home and you realize you do need the help. It doesn't matter. We're there when you need us. When people call in, when people have those needs,
Mhm.
ask, ask, and just don't call one company, call a couple of companies so
Mhm.
you understand the industry. The
Mhm.
industry, certain companies, will only give you X. We want to be there and let the family be able to do what they need to do. Understand that they're a big component of helping take care of this person, but they're no good if they're emotionally and physically exhausted from taking care of those people when they transition home. They're going to need their
Yes.
strength, they're going to need their energy. And if you can have somebody take that pressure off of you, being able to change,
Mhm.
shower that patient, be able to take care of the little odds and ends in home management, little light housekeeping, laundry. So it's not on your table after you spend a long day working and spend another 3 hours trying to take care of mom or dad. And then all of a sudden it's 12 o'clock at night and all these things have added up and you haven't touched one. Being able to help take that pressure off and being able to give those people still a little bit of freedom so they can have that, energy when it's needed.
And we call that self-care.
Yep.
Especially women, we try to take it all on, and there's nothing worse than being completely burned out and not even realizing that there's businesses like yours there to help.
Exactly.
So I encourage people to call you and see what your business can do to help them in their everyday lives and on the weekends too. So where can people find you? Tell me about website and contact information, and that will all be linked below for our audience members.
Absolutely. You can always call us at 813-249-2273. You can ask for Jordan. You can ask for anybody in the office. We're there to help make a difference. Our website is conciergecarefl.com. It'll give a listing of all the services, all the locations, and you can go through there to be able to contact us. We do get out in the community. We try to sponsor and be involved with events. Come out and see us, especially if you're interested in touring facilities. We do come out to family nights and promote, our services to families and facilities as well.
That's how I actually met you.
Don't tell anybody. It's our secret.
At one of our networking events, I believe it was one of the assisted living facilities, and
Correct.
What a great way to learn, and understand and to speak to the people that represent those businesses. So all the information, again, everyone, will be linked below. It'll be going across the screen as well so that you can reach out to Jordan. And thank you so very much for being our guest today, Jordan. Really appreciate you being on board with us and taking an hour out of your life to just share information about your business and help people.
It is my pleasure, Melanie. You have a wonderful podcast. You do a great job with you and your clients. And, like everybody says, if you don't call, you're never going to get the right answer.
Yeah, and the resources are there. I encourage everyone to call you. So thank you so very much. We'll definitely do a follow-up interview to see what's going on within your business, and we'll talk about clients. So thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining in this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.